Nicolae Ceaușescu had ruled Romania with an iron grip for 24 years. On December 21, 1989, he stepped onto a balcony in Bucharest to deliver a speech, intended to prove he was still in control. But within 4 days, he and his wife would be captured. And his reign would end in a way no one could have imagined, broadcast to the entire nation. This is how Romania's revolution unfolded.
It's the middle of December 1989. We're in the Palace Square in Bucharest, and it's nearly freezing. Over 50,000 people have been brought here. Many were taken straight from schools or their workplaces. Some have been standing in the cold for more than 5 hours, and they're all waiting for one man, Nicolae Ceaușescu.
For nearly a quarter of a century, Ceaușescu had ruled Romania through fear and absolute control. But just days earlier, protests in the city of Timișoara had sparked nationwide unrest. The cause? A priest spoke out against the regime. When people defended him, security forces responded with gunfire. The news spread quickly. And for the first time in decades, the people rose up.
The problem for Ceaușescu is that he must isolate people like that before they get a following. If they do, then he will be on the road to repeating the performance of other Stalinist leaders throughout Eastern Europe. Ceaușescu's aim, therefore, was to isolate him straight from the beginning. However, Father Tokes was not a man to be isolated easily. He refused to leave his church, and he had the support of his parishioners. It was this that sparked off the demonstrations in Timișoara.
To reassert authority, Ceaușescu calls for a massive rally, broadcast live on national television. His plan: show both Romania and the world that the people still stood with him. But this decision would mark the beginning of his downfall.
Ceaușescu steps out onto the balcony as he waves to the audience to the sound of almost deafening cheers. But something's off. Almost everyone in the crowd is standing completely still, except for a few people in the front rows. The cheering is fake. It's actually a pre-recorded track blasting from huge speakers around the square. Then, Ceaușescu starts his speech. And at first, things seem to be going rather well. But then, just as he's in the middle of thanking the organisers of the rally, screams can be heard from somewhere back in the crowd. This is not part of the pre-recorded track. "Someone is shooting!" his wife Elena shouts. "They're entering the building," his security guard says. Off camera, demonstrators have broken through barriers and are heading toward the Central Committee building, right where Ceaușescu is standing.
That night, Ceaușescu orders the army and secret police to restore order. Tanks roll into the streets. Snipers take positions. Protesters are met with live fire. By morning, the streets of Bucharest tell a grim story. But instead of silencing the people, it fuels their determination. Workers from across the country march toward the capital. This time, when soldiers are told to fire, they refuse. Instead, they join the protesters. Ceaușescu is shaken. In desperation, he calls an emergency meeting at party headquarters. But outside, hundreds of thousands are surrounding the building. The walls are closing in. On December 22nd, he flees by helicopter from the rooftop, barely escaping as crowds storm the compound. The dictator is now on the run.
The pilot immediately heads toward Ceaușescu's residence in Snagov, north of the city. Here, Nicolae desperately tries to summon military assistance and orders the pilot to get 2 helicopters with soldiers as an escort. The answer from the other end, however, is clear. They're on their own. No one's coming to help. The pilot convinces the Ceaușescus to take off again quickly, leaving the 2 officials behind to lighten the load. Nicolae instructs the pilot to fly toward the western city of Titu, hoping to reach a loyal garrison. But suddenly, a message crackles over the radio. All flights are grounded. Any unidentified aircraft will be shot down. And so they have to land. The pilot puts them down by a road between Bucharest and Târgoviște. And with that, the Ceaușescus now find themselves on their own, with just 2 security guards.
For hours, the helicopter darts across the skies of Romania. But the military no longer answers his calls. Everywhere, he is abandoned. Eventually, he lands on a country road and is forced to seek help from strangers. By nightfall, Ceaușescu and Elena are recognized, detained, and handed over to the army. On December 25th, a special tribunal convenes. The charges are sweeping: crimes against the state, abuse of power, and the destruction of the nation's economy. The trial is brief. The verdict: guilty. The sentence is carried out immediately. Within hours, footage airs on Romanian television. The nation sees proof: Nicolae Ceaușescu's rule has ended. For the first time since 1937, Romanians would soon vote in free elections. In the years that followed, the nation joined NATO, entered the European Union, and began rebuilding from decades of authoritarian rule. It began with a staged rally, and ended with a revolution broadcast to the world.